All right. Fuck the timer. I know it still says 10 minutes. Let's get this show on the road. What's up? You can see the thing already. Okay, let me fix that. Boop. You saw nothing. All right, sick. Uh Welcome back to the live stream. This is the episode, the live stream episode where I react to MatPat again. Now, I know I said during the just a robot react because a chatter recommended that I look at more of his videos, that I don't want to establish a pattern of reacting to YouTubers more than once, right? Like I've already reacted to Just a Robot. I've already reacted to MatPat, but I think in this case I can make an exception. I think it's warranted because this is MatPat's going away video. This is, in his own words, this is like the finale of film theory. So I think it's justified. There is politics to talk about, but quite frankly, I think I need a reset on talking politics. And let's start the video, I guess. I hope the audio balance is okay. Let me know if anything is too loud or too quiet. Pull that up. I will probably just have this be the other window on my monitor. See, I will... Yeah, I'll have my finger hovering over the K button. K being the toggle for pause and unpause. But unlike space, if I spam it, there's not the risk of accidentally making the video full screen. So let me situate myself so that I can do that. All right.
You know, film theory tends to get itself a bad rap. As the middle child of the theorist lineup, it tends to get overlooked or forgotten, so much so that it's become its own meme at this point. And yet,
Really?
of all the channels...
Man, I remember when film theory was new, when it was like just game theory, and then it was like, oh, I talk about movies too. And, and I was kind of like, damn. So he's going to say even more goofy shit, but this time about movies.
Film theory covers, by my estimation, the most important topics. Don't get me wrong, you have plenty of silly episodes mixed in here, like How to Kill Deadpool,
Okay,
Willy
well, there
Wonka's
you go.
OSHA violations, me trying to become host of Jeopardy, your
I think the fact that MatPat is self-aware about that stuff is pretty endearing.
Lost Guys, by the way. But we also have episodes warning about deepfakes, propaganda, net neutrality, copyright, how fragmented pop culture is eroding our collective sense of identity, resulting in heightened levels of depression and isolation. Those are important and heavy topics to cover because...
Yeah, they're also very political topics that you can talk about to a non-political audience because they're things that people are likely to experience at some more personal level. You know, it's something where you can kind of avoid the unfortunate abstraction to a degree.
As we said in one of our recent theories, media is a tool that can enact change and influence public thinking at a global scale. The entertainment we consume, it shapes us and our beliefs. And like any tool...
That's right. In fact, academics base most of their theories about how politics are dictated, like in popular discourse, off of this exact fact. Manufacturing consent is a big example, except that pertains to news coverage. And what MatPat is talking about here is how content creation and internet media influences your opinions in your life that's sort of in a different sphere.
It can transform into a weapon if misused, which is why today's episode, my final film theory, feels so important.
All right. Got him. Very cool intro. Please don't copyright me. I mean nothing but respect. And I'm also not going to monetize it.
Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's now entering its zaddy era. Today I wanted to start off with a question. I want you to think about all the media that you consumed during your childhood, all the TV shows and movies that you loved as a kid. And now, with the perspective that you've gained as you've gotten older, can you name for me 5 good father figures from children's media? I'm talking about wholesome dads who want the best for their kids, who try really hard to teach them and nurture them and show them love and all the good things that that dad should be doing. Legitimately, go down to the comments, type out who comes to mind, because I consume a lot of media, and I had a hard time making this list. Back when we brought Leon as creative director here on Film Theory, this was actually one of the first conversations he and I had about the state of media. Even more recently, we've asked this question around the office, and people really struggle with it. I mean, it's not impossible to come up with a list. You'll eventually get there, but it's shockingly hard. Our list ended up being Bandit from Bluey, Arthur Weasley from Harry Potter, Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender, Mufasa from Lion King, and Goofy from a Goofy movie. But the fact that it's
that's right. Goofy has a kid. All right. I don't know where he's going with this, but so far I kind of like the personability of like what he's setting up here. Yeah, you know, I guess I would kind of also have a hard time remembering what father figures were in a lot of my childhood media, especially considering that, like, it wasn't something I was very actively looking for, because I had my dad. My dad was there, and he's still to this day one of my greatest friends. So I don't know, I guess it's just something I didn't pay that much close attention to, you know? And I guess there's probably also something to be said about the main characters frequently being more memorable than, like, the supporting roles and the father figures and whatnot, because, you know, obviously the main character, you know? You know how that goes. I got the low trick 3 for 3. That was pretty cool.
Continue. Fathers in sitcoms are usually bumbling buffoons, deadbeat dads, or need anger management. And it's not just a lack of good dads here either. Honestly, most of the male characters that you see across media, both young and old, they're not great. Classic cartoon kids are almost universally bratty, cruel, greedy, or inconsiderate.
Yeah.
Why do you do this? You're so stupid! Stupid!
Even the oldest of old school animated characters that have been sanitized to be as brand safe and neutral today as possible, they started off as horrible jerks.
Oh shit. That might get me murked, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, okay. I don't 100% know where this is going yet, but from the perspective of, like, positive versus negative influences in media, I guess being a jerk is pretty funny in an animated medium. Maybe they're trying to say, like, haha, this is funny, but also don't do this in real life. Like, come in with the father figure being like, I'm the moral compass, or something like that. Sometimes it's a mother figure as well that does stuff like that. But let's see where's Matt Pat taking this. I know that, okay, because this video is about not trusting your heroes, I think eventually this is going to end up on the discussion of content creation and, you know, popular influencers, YouTubers, you know, celebrities, and how parasocial relationships are very dangerous, and that you shouldn't necessarily, like, you have to be very careful about forming those kinds of relationships and understand that they're not these larger-than-life figures. They are human beings with flaws. That's where I think he's going to go with this eventually, you know. But right now, we're talking about Goofy and Bugs Bunny and stuff.
They're angry, they're violent, they're not good people. So why do I bring it up in my final episode? Well, as a dad, I've started to pay a lot more attention to these sorts of things in the media that I watch, because I want to know if it's something that I can actually share with Ollie. And surprisingly, there isn't a lot that I'm super happy with sharing. And it all comes down to a lack of shows with characters that I actually want Ollie to grow up to be like. Now, I can't stress enough that we live in the most open time ever for children's entertainment. Newer shows like Owl House, Amphibia, and People and the Age of Wonder Beasts are given voices to historically underrepresented groups as both creators and characters. There is something in there for everyone, and that's awesome. But the pickings for boy characters that I want my son to try to be like, of male characters that I want him to look up to, they are mighty slim, my friends. That's kind of a problem. So today, I wanted to look at why. Why are there so few of these truly great role models for boys? Why, in this era where we have more choice in what we can watch than ever before, are there so few choices that have good male role models for my son to look?
Maybe this isn't going to go where I thought it was going to go. Regardless, I have kind of an answer to why I think that is. Why there are so few good role models for boys in media. And that's possibly because like there's a certain underlying trend of masculine expectations and like the behavior that boys engage in, that they be like a little bit ironic and detached and stuff. You know how like online a lot of people are irony poisoned and whatnot? That's very much a sort of male coded thing in the sense of not like showing any sort of sincerity and being very guarded about your emotions and things like that, right? That tends to be a thing that a lot of boys are either taught to do or learn to do, however directly or indirectly, right? In fact, it's impacted my life in various ways, and it's had pretty negative impact on my life. But I do imagine that this is going to play into why there aren't more positive role models for young boys and men. We'll see, though. Let's keep going.
Look up to? Well, after diving into the history and economics of this sort of media, it all comes down, as it so often does, to money. Surprise, surprise. Don't
Damn,
touch that
that's
dial, my friends.
crazy.
It's time to
Yeah, I guess, you're making a comedy, comedic sort of kids cartoon. Being a giant dickhead is way funnier, and that's going to get people to watch, and when people watch, you get more money.
crack this case wide open. So to start things out, it should be noted that gender identity for young children doesn't really become a factor for several years into their life.
Wait, is MatPat... Did I just fucking predict this? Is MatPat gonna hammer in on male socialization from a young age and how a lot of male characters in cartoons are very, like, dickish? And how that, like, turns a lot of people into really weird amalgams of like, detachment and humor as a way to disguise or avoid expressing genuine emotion? Because if so, I might be a genius.
According to research,
And MatPat definitely is a genius.
most kids don't start to identify with one gender or another until the age of 3. And it's important that they're encouraged to explore that at their own pace. The last thing we want to do is to
Holy shit, based?
sort kids who are still discovering themselves into boxes. And likewise, children can of course have role models who are not the same sex or gender that they are. It is awesome for boys to have role models who are women, vice versa, and everyone beyond and in between the binary. I'm just talking about it today because I want to make sure that there are good examples set across the board for everyone. And right now, the male category, pretty severely lacking. And me saying that might come as a bit of a surprise, right? Like, there are a ton of male characters out there in media. They have been the bedrock, the focus of entertainment forever. So how am I possibly standing here saying we need more male role models? Well, this is one of those episodes where just looking at the numbers isn't going to be telling you the whole story. A 2008 study from Television conducted across
Qualitative
24
analysis.
countries found that there were twice as many male characters than female characters in children's TV. A decade later, a similar study from the Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media found that roughly half of all episodes of children's entertainment had female leads. That is good news. Everything's balanced, as all things should be. So what's the problem? Well,
Cool.
again, let me be clear. This isn't a case of where are the male characters? There are plenty of them out there. We are tripping over them. Instead, this is a conversation about the quality of those characters. What's going on with the types of male characters that we keep seeing? Have you ever stopped and considered how many of them actually embody the traits that you would want a kid to emulate?
Ah,
At a quick
okay,
glance,
yeah,
the
quality
modern
versus
era,
quantity.
It's seen a wide spectrum of overwhelmingly positive, affirming female and female-coded characters. You have everything from Doc McStuffins to the Miraculous Ladybug, Hello Kitty, Bluey, Luz from the Owl House, most of the gems from Steven Universe, Carmen Sandiego, who's apparently a hero now. Barbie just
What?
had herself an empowering
I don't
live-action adaptation, and she's also sort of a YouTube vlogger dishing out shockingly solid mental health advice.
You know what's actually really cool about the Barbie movie is that I think it exemplifies Matt Pat's point super well, because Ken was not meant to be the main focus of the movie, but a lot of guys came away from that sort of sympathizing with Ken and showing him up as like a icon of masculine charm in some ways. Obviously, like, Ken, very flawed character in those movies and stuff. But even still, it's like it's a character that really resonated with a male audience, and at the same time, it's not like Ken is not somebody that you should aspire to be, and the film makes that pretty pretty evident. Alright. So far, so good.
Maybe I'm just being really unfair on myself. You know, I don't always have to be upbeat and positive.
Even parodies of the overconfident, self-reliant neo-heroine like Princess Bubblegum from Adventure Time ultimately get to be effective political leaders, excel at STEM fields, kick butt on the battlefield, and get the girl in the end. The fact that these characters exist, that is awesome. I don't want to take anything away from that. And if this is how we're overcorrecting for decades of women being trapped as damsels in distress or trophies, I am all about that. But then you look over at the boy.
Yeah, that's true. The damsel in distress trope is pretty cringe, not gonna lie.
Boys, and things get a bit
For a bunch of reasons. It's complicated, but I usually don't like to see it.
more complicated. Sure, there are some truly great and kind characters that I do want my son to look up to. For as much fun as I've had here on the channel saying that he's actually a ruthless businessman, Ryder from the Paw Patrol, fantastic role model. He's smart, he's resourceful, he's caring, he's a leader, and it was awesome that Ollie dug that series. Probably in part because he saw Ryder and wanted to connect with him. Same thing with Dipper from Gravity Falls. Also a win for being smart, curious, brave, and a loving brother. Also, there's a handful of solid early educational programming with male protagonists like Arthur, Thomas the Tank Engine, Daniel Tiger, though it's worth calling out how few of them are actually human. But let's talk for a minute about the characters that
you know what?
come up in a
You know what? That's true, I think. I think with some of the, like, when you separate, when you separate the media from the conventional world, when you have it in a more fantastical setting, that gives a little bit more leeway, for you to, have a proper, like, male role model for young boys, and stuff like that. And I think that really speaks to the lack of the ability to do that in media that isn't as fantastical, that depicts the real world or a real enough world, you know? I'm driving like shit.
conversation like this, right? Well, the problem here is that they tend to have a huge asterisk attached to their names. Captain
Yeah,
America,
okay, here we go.
Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, the Ninja Turtles, they're all great, but the stories also involve a lot of war, crime, death, fighting in general. They try to
Violence.
solve most of their problems through punching and physical violence. And
Yes.
Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, they're selfless heroes who do what they think's right no matter what the cost. But they're also sitting
violence.
smack dab in franchises built on needing to be violent, fighting, often killing soldiers, stormtroopers, dark wizards. Not generally a drawback that you're facing from traditionally feminine skewing characters like Sophia the First or Elena of Avalor. And if they're not violent or surrounded by violence, well, very often they're just not good. Johnny Bravo's a big old womanizer. Timmy Turner's a whiny, spoiled narcissist. Jimmy Neutron's arrogant, destructive, mean to girls, and regularly uses his intelligence as an excuse for being a jerk to his friends. Even Phineas and Ferb, who are smart and resourceful and funny, are outright
kind of
disobeying
wanton.
their parents each and every day of summer.
Yeah.
Actually, the reason Ali wanted to stop watching the show, he was afraid of them getting in trouble for constantly breaking the rules episode after episode. I think you get the idea. Look at media through this sort of lens and suddenly you see examples everywhere you go. Just to get some hard numbers in here, that same Gina Davis study that I mentioned earlier noted that male characters, they're more likely to be violent compared to female characters, and also
Gotta introduce a pause here. Yes. I mean, so far, like, I agree with everything that Matt Pat's saying, but to sum it up, like, to put it more concisely, there's a distinct lack of emphasis on, like, real-world behavior, and there's more, like, in media with male characters, there's a fixation on violence, partially just because that's what sells, and then also because, like, reinforcing norms, whatever, and it's having a disproportionate impact on young guys, leading them to, leading them in part down the road of, like, traditional masculine upbringing, which leads people to be a lot more emotionally guarded and actually very vulnerable to the kind of poor emotional understanding, the loneliness, and all sorts of stuff that I think Matt Pat mentioned a little bit in his the other video that I watched. I don't want to mention that too much. I don't want to rely on another video that isn't this one, but yeah. And of course, there are still problems also with feminine characterization in media as well. You know, the how would I put this? There is still a little bit of a damsel in distress sort of stuff. There are some movies where you can see this with female leads. These tend to be for a little bit of an older audience, but where if there's like a coherent storyline, then a female lead is a little bit more likely, I think, to be pushed by the story than to be the one pushing the story. If that makes sense, it's like active versus passive protagonists, and stuff like that. Yeah. So ultimately, I think there's more characterization, like correction that needs to be done for like, particularly for male characters in kids media, I guess. But that's kind of a hard thing to do when the incentive structures just aren't there to do it, right? Like changing the incentive structures around like how do you portray men in media, it's all around what sells, and there's only a limited range that you can operate in there. It's a tall order for sure, but you know.
Almost twice as likely to be depicted as a criminal. Remember, we're not talking about fun characters to watch, or characters that you like. I think most of the examples I listed above fall into at least one of those two categories. No, we're talking about characters that are admirable role models for young boys. Characters whose activity we want them to imitate or look up to as they develop during childhood. I also want to reaffirm, I personally like all of these shows and movies. There is no judgment here if you're a fan of any of these sorts of things. But they're just not shows that I can show Ollie until he's much, much older because of the implicit lessons that they contain. Boys are violent. You solve your problems with punching. If you break rules and treat people badly, don't worry, there are no real consequences. You're the main character of your own show, and everything just works out well for you. So with all of that established, I think we can start to discuss why things have ended up this way, because this has deep roots in the history of pop culture. The long and short of it, when you start to unpack the old media that inspired our modern media, you find a lot of old-fashioned assumptions that end up persisting in ways that you wouldn't expect. Though there have always been trickster boy characters dating back centuries and cultures all across the world, the Western pop culture version of this archetype really took shape in the early 1900s with the creation of Peter Pan by novelist J.M. Barrie, though you probably know him best from the 1953 Disney cartoon. I cannot overstate how influential this one story was.
Oh yeah, that's right. The sort of wanton irresponsibility of male characters is one of the biggest things. In fact, I think that wraps into the violence as well. The whole main character syndrome and there are no consequences for your actions, definitely a big problem that needs to be addressed in media, and stuff like that. But again, like I said, it's a tall order to fill because it's hard to change structures that have been around for such a long time. Like Pat said, it's a lot more evident when you look at older media.
One and everything from Steven Spielberg to The Legend of Zelda was influenced by Peter Pan. And that matters. By this point, I'm sure you know the story. Peter Pan's a boy who doesn't want to grow up. He has magical powers and finds other children who also don't want to grow up, whisking them away to Neverland so they can be kids together forever. In some darker interpretations, he just straight up abducts the kids. And even in the Disney version, from the first time we see his face, it's clear that this is not a 100% trustworthy good guy. The whole point of Peter Pan's character, though, is that he's fun, but he's also immature. He's emotionally stunted. He's kind of a jerk. If you aren't...
He's a millennial! Okay, sorry, I couldn't resist.
Also a perpetual child, you eventually get tired of him, especially if you're a girl. The Lost Boys are called the Lost Boys because there weren't any Lost...
Oh yeah, that's true. I guess that wraps around to what I was saying at the beginning about, like, certain characters just being, like, huge jerks. Damn it. I thought I could take a different angle than him, but guess not. Alright, let's keep going.
girls
Video.
originally. Peter's explanation
what's
is
up?
that girls are just far too clever to become lost like the rest of them. And when he brings Windy Darling to Neverland, it throws things into complete disarray because her relative maturity makes the other lost boys want to grow up. The point is, what Peter Pan explored was the very rigid classifications of gender in a child's upbringing during the era. The idea that on the whole, girls emotionally mature faster than boys. Something that has a fair amount of scientific truth to it. Literally, most girls optimize connections in their brains at an earlier age than boys, leading them to cognitively mature more.
That's true. A lot of there is some like neuroscience behind this, but there's also a lot of social expectations behind this as well, where girls have, there's so much more pressure on girls to like learn the social script than with boys. You know, like Matt Pat was saying earlier, with the sort of consequence-free nature of male characters in media being like superheroes and stuff. With girls, it's kind of the opposite, where like they're not necessarily with the representations in media outright, but they're like constantly walking on eggshells. They tested sirens today. I got freaked out that a disaster was happening. Oh shit. I hope everything ended up all right. Usually they tell you when it's a test, right? They'll say, like, this is just a test. I got the alert on my phone after the sirens finish. Wow, that's really, like, fucking... That's such a fucking bro moment. Like, oh boy, emergency sirens. It might actually be the end of the world. And then they're like, haha, just kidding, it was a test. That's such a giant fuck you.
Quickly. The consensus for a long time has been that boys are born wild and unruly, while girls just grow.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to hammer on. There is some neuroscience and like biochemistry shit about how girls and boys mature, at least to the extent that people have like the male-female blueprint, whatever. Boys will be boys. Yeah, that's what I wanted to get at. Most of the difference between men and women is socially ascribed and socially prescribed. As you know, as we see with the boys will be boys attitude. Why? Why can't girls also do that? Like there's a... Most of this is learned, not innate.
Grow up faster, and it's therefore their job to civilize the boys, to get them to want to settle down and act like actual human beings. And that mentality is all over old Disney films. The Seven Dwarves live like a bunch of frat boys until Snow White shows up to show them how to use a broom and a dustpan. Beauty and the Beast is all about a big jerk who literally doesn't know how to act human until a woman shows up and tells him. And yeah,
bro,
that's
so
what happens
true.
in Peter Pan too. The Lost Boys are presented with the options of staying in Neverland, where they can run around like madmen and play pirates and break stuff and make a mess, or you can go home, get a job, and find a windy darling of your own. In these older stories, the girl was the reward for the men who grew up. That sort of thinking,
true.
Boys will be boys and the girl's the trophy that you earned for settling down, it's not great. It's how we got a lot of the problematic media from years gone by. And more importantly, the justified pushback against that sort of thinking's what's led to a lot.
Okay, and by the way, that's the real objectification of women, by the way. When people say objectification of women, anybody who talks about like women wearing skimpy clothes is doing such a fucking disservice to the concept of objectification in media, right? Objectification is about the stuff that I was saying earlier about like active versus passive characterization, and whether or not the person is treated as a person in the story, whether they're treated as a moral agent, right? With any sort of influence on their own fate, right? The objectification of women happens irrespective of how a woman looks in a given medium, or in a given like movie, book, whatever. It's all about like, are they an actual character, or if they are treated like a reward of some kind, that's objectification. You know? Nice try, but I was driving like a dumbass, so it didn't work. Got him. Wow.
Out of the great girl-targeted media over the past decade. Movies and series written specifically to show that girls aren't just there to be prizes for the boys, or there for the sole purpose of getting their male counterparts to mature. They're their own fully realized people, with beliefs, virtues, flaws, strengths and weaknesses, thoughts and feelings. But now I have to ask, why hasn't something similar happened with boys in the media? Why are so many of these male characters just stuck in the older ways of thinking and writing male characters while girls have gotten to grow up? They're still stuck as Peter Pans, emotionally stunted and immature. Why? Well, there's something that all these years of hosting the channels have taught me, is that the real reason so many decisions are made in Hollywood comes down to one thing and one thing only:
money.
The money. In children's media, there's no bigger moneymaker than toys. See, in Hollywood, there's a concept known as toyetic media. This is any movie, cartoon, TV show, comic book, or whatever.
All right. This is the sort of social inertia that I was kind of gesturing at earlier, where like there are all sorts of incentive structures that prevent these issues from being addressed. Now, with girls and women in media, it's a bit easier to address them because you can do so in a way that is still profitable, right? But with boys, because spectacle is profitable, because action and violence in some sense is profitable when you depict it in media, it's a lot harder to address the potential problems that could come up with that, because addressing those problems would be to like to romanticize it less or to focus on it less, which would actually make it harder to sell toys of male characters in media if they engaged in less violence, or if like you created a new character that wasn't as like as much of a superhero and whatever, you know. But then, you know, conversely with girls and whatever, when there's a female character that's a much more active participant in the events of a movie, because that is a progression that is more action than the previous standard of women being very passive, that is very profitable. That's a profitable change to make. So you're going to see a little bit more headway on that front in media than with male characters.
Created for the purpose of advertising merchandise. It doesn't have to be the only purpose of the media, but a lot of decisions made in Hollywood are done so that the properties become more toyetic. A good example of this, during the pre-production of the 1990s film Batman and Robin, toy manufacturers sat in on creative meetings, and many parts of the movie were changed to be easier to make toys out of. And despite the film itself being a financial disappointment,
I fucking hate that toxic culture, by the way. I hate that, like, I hate the relationship between, like, oh, this movie should be to, like, sell toys and shit. I hate that so much. You know, when I was young, obviously, I liked the toys. But I hate the, like... I hate the incentive structures, what I'm trying to get at.
the merchandise made enough money that Warner Brothers continued the Batman franchise with a reboot. However, the first huge property that really took advantage of this idea of toyetic media was Star Wars. Practically everything within the Star Wars franchise was designed in a way to let them very easily transfer to toys. And George Lucas was a savvy enough businessman to negotiate that he would keep the merchandising rights in lieu of a higher upfront paycheck. This is how Lucas made his billions, not through the movies, through the toys.
Yeah, by the way, Star Wars, I think, is one of the few series I was able to, like, wrangle with the sort of toy industry, and in my opinion, not really suffer all that much because of it. Because if you think about, like, the things that sell toys, action is one of them, for sure. And, you know, the concept of Star Wars is a very action-packed one, so there's no problem on that front. And, in fact, Star Wars does this, you know, in some areas, obviously, there are flaws with the ways that Star Wars depicts violence. But then there's also ways in which it handles it quite well. Another component of selling toys is good design, good character design, whether your characters are aesthetically cool. And when you do that, then you can kind of get away with selling toys even if your characters aren't all that, like, action-oriented, right? Seriously, Darth Vader in Star Wars, like, what does he do, right? Kitty cats, welcome back. Yeah, it has been a while. And yeah, I'm doing all right. You know, if you think about Darth Vader, aside from the lightsaber battles between him and Luke, he doesn't do all that much, right? Like, if you think even just about the concept of his character, he's not very mobile. You know, not a very action-packed character within the original trilogy, I should specify, right? Like, sure, he picks up Captain Antilles by the throat. That's pretty intimidating. But apart from that, he's kind of just there as a menacing presence, and he does a lot of talking. Funnily enough, he's one of the biggest rhetorical influences in the movie. He's got a lot of memorable lines, right? But his toys sold super well. People fucking love Darth Vader's design because he has such a cool design, you know? You know, even if Darth Vader did even less than he did, which was already, like, not that much. I've never watched Star Wars. Is it worth it, or is it too woke? You've never seen Star Wars? Well, Just a Robot would consider literally everything in Star Wars except for the original trilogy and the prequels to be woke, so yes, it's worth a watch. Yeah, start with the original trilogy if you're gonna watch Star Wars. Just watch A New Hope, and then take it from there, see if you like it, see if you don't. I'm willing to bet that you will like it. Yeah. So where were we in this video? Talking about yes, he was talking about the relationship between movies and the toy industry and how that affects like gendered characterization in media and how that feeds off of more violent archetypes of male characters in media and stuff like that. Which is I'd say that's a pretty bad relationship that sort of perpetuates bad norms.
Movies were just a nice
I have like 30 shows backed up that I will never get to watching. Well, just take it at your own pace. You just look. There's no pressure.
bonus on top. They were great films that happened to act as commercials for the action figures and plastic lightsabers. And other companies definitely took note of this. This led to a slew of toyetic IP being created for the sole purpose of selling merchandise. And a lot of the most popular franchises from the 80s and 90s fall into this exact category. I'm talking
true.
Transformers, G.I. Joe, Thundercats.
Yeah, you know, when you think about it, I think the 80s and 90s were also a time that sort of focus on that aesthetic just in general. Like, if you think about the kind of outfits people were wearing in the 80s and 90s, you could just have, like, a 1980s guy action figure. You know? Or a 1980s girl action figure. Because, man, I fucking swear. Clothes were so goofy back in the day. To a certain extent, they're still pretty damn goofy, but, you know. This is going to put me in an extremely vulnerable position. Hopefully somebody just passes me from speed alone.
Digimon,
Yeah, okay.
even certified classics like Cowboy Bebop. All of them are made specifically to sell toys, games.
Older clothes look far better. It's subjective. Or I mean, like, the garish stuff that was in style. Because there's been, like, pretty consistent dress norms throughout the 20th century. Stuff from the 80s definitely has a very distinctive and like, not horrible look to it in some ways.
Trading cards, you name it. And not because they were the best stories to tell our kids. But then why are we still selling crummy characters to little boys and not to girls? Well, if you look at the way boys and girls relate to their toys, you start to see one of the big reasons why boy characters are held to such low standards. Let me show you an example from one of the world's biggest toy brands, Lego. In 2011, the Lego company completed an exhaustive study into children's play psychology that spanned multiple years and continents.
I
They
love
wanted to look at
studies.
child development and feedback from parents to figure out the difference between boy toys and girl toys, if there was any difference at all. What did boys and girls like to play with, and why?
I'm just saying the average medieval peasant had more drip than your average billionaire does now. Oh yeah, your average billionaire has zero drip, but like you go up to your average gay guy now, like if you're not in like billionaire territory, people have drip. It's just billionaires are fucking inhuman weirdos. The average peasant now has so much more drip than the average peasant 500 years ago. Oops. No, I didn't mean to do that. I hit L. Are you completely overlooking my comments? I can only read so much. It's so fast. Also because you're talking about media that I don't watch, have no interest in, and your comments seem to be generally directed at the other chatter, not me. Feel like I'm intruding? You're not intruding. Also, don't try to hijack my stream. Get back
deciding
to
what actions the characters they were playing with.
Oh, wait, hold on. Also because I'm female? What? No. Sexist, that's probably why. Yeah, in addition to the world's best racist, I'm also the world's best sexist. That's very true. I am probably gonna get, like, 4th? No, I got 3rd. Huh. Where was I? Yes, the Lego study. I love studies and research.
Multiple years in continents.
Also, I have a very hard time reading sarcasm over text. I should have said that.
They wanted to look at child development and feedback
If that
from
was
parents
sarcasm,
to figure out the
I failed
difference
to read
between
it.
boy toys and girl toys, if there was any difference at all. What did boys and girls like to play with and why? And the results were fascinating. Obviously, this
I mean, this probably just comes back to the meme, right? Where the boys play with a fire truck or, like, dinosaurs and action figures and whatever, and girls play with, like, Polly Pocket? Is that still a thing? And, like, Barbies, dollhouses, etc., etc. Because we enforce really fucking weird gender norms on kids from a young age. Let girls play with dinosaurs. Let guys play with houses. Let men be like Mother's Milk. I don't know if any of you have seen The Boys, but there's like a model house set in this series, The Boys, which is about superheroes. This is one guy, his name is Mother's Milk, and he loves building this little dollhouse set. I'm in a weird mood. Sorry, I'm being a tool. It's all good. We all have those days. And he's a very cool dude.
comes with big asterisks that every child's gonna be different, but broadly speaking, LEGO found that boys tended to play with their toys and figurines in the third person, deciding what actions the characters they were playing with would take, or as a director of sorts. They were telling the knights, or astronauts, or superheroes what to do during play, rather than being the characters themselves, or putting themselves into the character's shoes. For LEGO, that meant that the boys tended...
That is not what I expected the study to find. Interesting. Maybe the distinction between what kinds of toys boys versus girls were, like, encouraged to play with was already pretty well known. Still, that has some pretty big implications that there's, like, this emotional connection versus emotional detachment. Fuck, you know what? That's what I was saying earlier. I was talking about how a lot of boys and men, including myself as a kid, were, like, very emotionally detached. Actually, I don't know why I said as a kid. I'm still kind of like that. Like, the, emotional, I guess I was just gonna say I was talking about this earlier, that, like, a lot of guys are taught to be a lot more emotionally detached, but also, like, emotionally guarded, and sort of, almost sociopathic in some extents, like, and, you know, belligerent, a little bit more violent by characters on TV and in movies, especially because of the, like, lack of consequence for violence that is seen as justified and stuff like that, and how there's not often a counter narrative to that. It's okay to depict violence in media. It's even okay to depict morally justifiable and righteous violence in media, in no small quantity and whatever, but there has to also be the counter narrative that, like, hey, by the way, violence is bad and these are very exceptional circumstances. I think that, you know, it needs to be appropriately situated in that context, but like, currently it's not, and it really hasn't been ever. What's up, Jordan? I usually don't make people mods unless they've been in my chat for a very long time. I'm definitely considering it with Mr. Globalize My Agenda.
To gravitate towards the IP-based playsets, Star Wars, Spider-Man, situations that were really exciting to direct the action for, but where you didn't really have to pretend to be those characters to make it exciting. On the other hand, girls tended to play in the first person, role-playing that they themselves were the characters doing these actions. They projected their own identities onto...
Huh, yeah, that's interesting. I used to do this a little bit as well, where I would pretend that I was the character, particularly with Spider-Man. Although obviously there's a limited extent to which I can do that, because I can't actually stick to walls. Unfortunately for me, that would be really cool. But yeah, you know, that's not like a hard and fast rule, or it's not like this obviously isn't a refutation. It's just it's like there's a trend and there's exceptions to the trend, and it is very interesting that even though I did engage in both these behaviors, I decisively did engage in like more of the playing with action figures in the third person. It's such a pervasive thing that I think everybody has had that experience to some degree. Although again, I don't know why I'm even talking about personal experience. This isn't an argument from personal experience. It's an argument from data. There's, you know, there's data to show that this is how boys grow up, this is how girls grow up, blah, blah, blah. I fall into that trap sometimes.
To the toys, rather than directing them to do things. The result of all this? Lego, who had always prided itself on the idea that Lego bricks were for everyone, that they weren't gendered, they developed the Lego Friends line, focused more on pastel colors, sets that seem more like doll houses than Death Stars, and redesigned minifigurines to look more human. Lego...
You know what? Honestly, that is so smart. How do we, like... I think that's one of the best way to address, to at least start to address that that divide that's going on between passive and active characterization and like socialization. That, you know, girls get to play with Legos, where they get to be a very, very active participant in action that's going on. Even if they still, like, even if people, like, obviously still do the thing where they're, like, they're pretending to be the character versus pretending to, like, whether they're, like, playing with the character and directing their actions.
Friends is now considered to be one of the most successful product launches in LEGO's history, doubling LEGO's expectations, tripling their sales with girls in the US and European markets, and rocketing LEGO to become the biggest toy maker on the planet. Clearly, it met a need in the market, and the data from their study lines up with tons of other deep dive research about toys and playstyles for children. The big
Jordan, I'm not meaning to be this aggressive, I promise.
Relate to characters differently. So when you're creating a TV show trying to sell them a bunch of toys, those shows are going to look different depending on who you're targeting. For girls, you have to create characters that the girls want to be. So when you sell them toys, they want to embody those characters. For boys, the job's actually kind of different. All you gotta do is create exciting worlds and characters for them to direct. As long as they feel like cool, exciting characters, job done. They don't necessarily have to be someone you look up to. And therefore, you get characters that aren't really good people. They're just loud and grab your attention. I bring all this up, Lego and toyetic media, because I can't help but draw a connection between the ways these studies observe children playing with toys and the media that's explicitly being created for them. Because girls typically roleplay in the first person during childhood, there's a greater focus on seeing yourself in these characters from that female-targeted media. They're designed from the ground up to be more appropriate role models because girls would directly identify with those protagonists. And on the other hand, boys are just assumed to simply watch male-targeted shows for the cool characters doing awesome things. They're watching the story in the third person and incorporating what they see into the direction that they give their toys later on. In the eyes of the corporations making the media and ultimately making the toys, what's...
I can tell you in a minute, but I want to finish this video first. Let me rewind. I kind of got distracted.
Seeing yourself in these characters from that female-targeted media. They're designed to grab your
So
attention.
yes, recapping that, like, a lot of boys are socialized to like the cool characters that they wouldn't necessarily pretend to be. Yeah, like I said, I'll get to that in a second. But right now, I'm doing this video. I don't want to derail the stream too much.
I bring all
this seems like the conclusion of this video.
Needed for them. Because girls typically roleplay in the first person during childhood, there's a greater focus on seeing yourself in these characters from that female-targeted media. They're designed from the ground up to be more appropriate role models because girls would directly identify with those.
If a girl playing with a plush animal in childhood doesn't mean they will become a furry when they grow up. Yes, with 100% accuracy, I can make that determination. No, I mean, no. It just means they like playing with animal plushies. Maybe they'll like animals when they grow up. Obviously, that sort of stuff does have psychological implications. Like the kind of toys that people gravitate towards indicate what their interests may be in the future. But yeah, obviously, I know that's true.
Protagonists. And on the other hand, boys are just assumed to simply watch male-targeted shows for the cool characters doing awesome things. They're watching the story in the third person and incorporating what they see into the direction that they give their toys later on. In the eyes of the corporations making the media and ultimately making the toys, what's most important here is to make the male characters cool, funny.
You know what's fascinating? In this instance, we have a role reversal. There's like in media, right? Usually female characters are depicted as more passive and male characters are depicted as a little bit more active. But it's interesting that from like a toys and marketing perspective, the consumer audience is like slated the opposite way, where the boys are, you know, obviously everybody playing with the toy is a active participant in the action, but the boys take a more passive role, acting as somebody outside of the like the ongoing thing that they're playing with, and then but with girls, it's like they're marketed to be like more involved in playing with the character than the boys do, if that makes sense, right? Like it's passivity in the show versus passivity in real life. Female characters are passive in the show as a way to market toys to girls who will be more active with those toys in real life than the boys whose respective like character analogs are more active in the show, in a show or movie. Kitty cats, I will get to it in a second, but you were talking a lot of shit right now, and you have no idea what you're talking about.
To their female counterparts.
Also, I feel like half the shit you say is specifically to get on my nerves. It's very good at pressing my buttons. Kitty cats, I'm going to actually have to ask you to shut up until I'm done with this. I'm not derailing the stream any more than I already have.
Violent, stupid, and cruel. And that, I think, is a significant part of why these male characters just don't stack up, especially in relation that they give their toys later on. In the eyes of the corporations making the media and ultimately making the toys, what's most important here is to make the male characters cool, funny, loud, and exciting, which far too often just translates into violent, stupid, and cruel. And that, I think, is a significant part of why these male characters just don't stack up, especially in relation to their female counterparts. Media, it's powerful. We see it influence action in the real world, and with younger girls now being shown that the world is open to them and that people should be taking them seriously by all these female protagonists, the ball starts rolling to make that a reality. And now, I want us to be able to do the same for these male characters. If we want our boys to grow up knowing that they should be kind, fair, smart and respectful, thoughtful and strong in all the right ways, we need to set them up for success by putting good examples of these traits in front of them in the shows that they're watching. We can still have fun.
Yeah, okay, it is pretty straightforward so far. Yes, I mean, like, yeah, you need to change the expectations that are set for kids and the sort of attitude. I am going to look, if you start whinging about this shit again, I'm going to mute you until I'm done with this. All right? I've had my fair share of debates in the day.
Fun with them. They can still be heroic and funny, but they can do all that without being mean or dumb or violent or destructive. It won't be easy, but we've shown over the last decade that we can make positive change in the media that's being produced. And you know what? It is time that we finally let our boys grow up. That way my son, our sons, can have characters worth looking up to. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut.
All right. Yes, I agree. Very cool video from MatPat. Obviously, I have a lot of respect for the guy. Yeah. Well, I am the best racist after all. I don't know if I have any closing thoughts on it. This is like the ways that patriarchy perpetuates itself and manifests in the modern world are very complicated, and we sort of saw that by this video. A lot of the ways in which it is able to survive revolves around progress mostly being like very slow, and ultimately patriarchy and like profit margins being very interlinked and compatible and things like that. But look, this is going to involve a lot of academic terminology. Ultimately, what a lot of this boils down to is that media obviously has a tendency to influence our behavior. It's just a natural part of who we are as human beings. Media is a reflection of other human experiences, and, you know, we take from that what we take from that, right? Whether it be positive or negative reinforcement of certain behaviors. And I think what MatPat is communicating here is fundamentally something that I agree with quite vehemently, which is that there's a lot of masculine socialization, toxic masculine socialization that goes on in media that positively reinforces bad behavior, right? So like there are kids that like are taught that certain things that they do that are actually quite mean and like misanthropic are actually okay, because it's like boys will be boys and whatever. I'm gonna assume that's a shit post, kitty cats. And likewise with girls. I actually am kind of disappointed that MatPat didn't talk a little bit about the problems with female characterization in media more. Although I guess it is true that that's gotten better with time. You know, it's pretty consistent with what I said, that like media is profitable insofar as it depicts action. People love to see action, and you know, there's a lot of compatibility for progress there with female characterization, because with female characters, you would be sort of bringing them to par with male characters by enabling them to do more action rather than having them do less of it. You know, and that's good. I think that's good, because it enables like more active characterization and generally just better art, because it's more true to life of how people are. It's always really weird when anybody is depicted as a very passive sort of participant in things that are happening in a piece of media. It just so happens that disproportionately that's been women, you know, over the course of media as like a artistic expression. Yeah, I don't know. It's complicated subject, and I think MatPat is right in the title of this video. I think he's right. Don't trust your heroes, especially not on like TV shows and movies and stuff, because a lot of times they can reflect very strange distillations of what we expect as moral or upright behavior in the real world and stuff like that. I don't know. It's really important to critically analyze media, and I think the earlier people learn that, the better. And also, what was I gonna say? Something. Oh yeah, and also I think like, I think there should be more positive reinforcement of good behaviors from an early age in media. And it also, of course, it doesn't help that when this is tied to profit, there's not that much of an incentive to actually fix the issues with male characterization in media, because, like, you know, toys are profitable and violence is a profitable thing to depict. But at the same time, I think that it's also, like, that's not to say you shouldn't depict violence in media, even in a morally justified lens, because people can tell that. And also, people are pretty good at distinguishing, this is obviously not real violence. You know, like in this game, when I get blown up, that's obviously not me really getting blown up. But there are a lot of Jack Thompson types that would hear me saying that and say, like, whoa, now hold on, violence in media is bad. Kitty cats, stop playing the victim. I'll be with you in a fucking second, alright? Yeah, I don't know. I guess another based video by Matt Pat. His I think his last video. And you know, I'm glad that he's been tackling the topics that he has been. Because again, you know, as of course as Mr. Socialist Man, resident socialist, you know, obviously a lot of these problems can be tied back to very strong profit incentives that sort of incentivize the behavior that draws the most eyeballs rather than one that is like the best for like I don't know, positive interactions with your fellow man, I guess I'll say. And I'll end it there. If that's a segment, future me, cut it. When I have, at the next available opportunity, I'm going to hide that window, that React Andy window, and then you are in for the fucking verbal whooping of a lifetime because you've been saying some insane shit, kitty cats. Yeah, that's what concerns me. Northern for a sec, what's your opinion? And I wanna get the I wanna get the window out of there first, and then I will and then I'll talk about it. Alright. That race is done. Get this out of here. Hide that element. And now, okay. Israel-Palestine. Kitty cats, I don't know where you get off talking about Israel is fighting for its survival or some shit, but you have been fed a load of bullshit if you think that's the case. I don't know how it's possible, but you are genuinely, consistently morally wrong when we're talking about current conflicts. I remember exactly the kind of shit that you had to say about Ukraine. I don't need some guy online to fucking go off at me. Clearly you do, because what you're engaging with right now is what I would consider to be genocide apologia light, where you're justifying the actions of the state of Israel, which has conducted massacre after massacre, raid after raid, against an unarmed civilian population in the Gaza Strip, and you were saying, oh, but Hamas. Yeah, fucking what? Like what? There are terrorists, okay? Every society has terrorists in it. I've got no ability to fucking call you. Yeah, nor should you. I actually don't, like, got no... How dare you? How dare I? Oh, yeah, how dare I? The guy who's doing the live stream have strong opinions on a conflict and somebody doing genocide apologia with respect to that conflict. Get the fuck out of my chat if that's how you're gonna behave. Seriously. I have such a low tolerance for this bullshit right now. At the outset of the war, it was very clear that Netanyahu was using Hamas as an excuse to obliterate the Gaza Strip and to kill as many Palestinians as possible. In fact, him and other Israeli officials have consistently been on TV stating as such. He has said various times that Hamas is an asset to Israel because his objective is to prevent a Palestinian state from existing. Many of his ministers share the same sentiment. He has prevented any other pro-Palestinian political parties from arising, making Hamas literally the only possible option for Palestinians who want to exert any sort of resistance against Israel. Because Hamas are only interested in slaughter, and that delegitimizes the Palestinian cause, Hamas is God's fucking gift to Netanyahu. And frankly, right now, you are... you know what, I've kind of lost my train of thought. Wake up. You wake the fuck up. I don't know what you've been watching. You sound like a Fox News viewer for how much you're throating Israel's throbbing cock. And quite frankly, you're the racist one here. I remember you earlier saying that you liberal don't understand the barbarity of Muslim extremists. Shut the fuck up. Get out of my chat. 1v3, please ban her. Seriously, after fucking 3 flower massacres, one in late February, I think, or like early March, and then 2 more immediately after that, after innumerable bombings of hospitals and schools and UN facilities, humanitarian facilities, and you come in here with a fucking pro-genocide take. You're just evil. I don't know what to tell you. You were throating Putin's cock the last time, and now you're here defending Israel and Netanyahu because Arabs are all terrorists and shit. Like, legit, what do I even refute here? You're just a bad person. Get her out of my chat. Permanently. I don't ever want to see you again. 1v3, you should have mod power on your secondary account as well. You're literally insane. Yeah, well, you support genocide, so I think I will take that as a compliment coming from you. 1v3, please. Do you know how to permaban somebody? If not, it's okay. I can just do it after the race is done. No, I can't. Okay, /ban. Bans. No point did I say that. You did. You did earlier. You said, oh, Muslim barbarians. Where is the show mod icons thing? Damn it, I'm having trouble with this. Go. Ban. There we go. Whew. Good fucking riddance. You have your own agenda, no one else can talk. Well, people who are pro-genocide can't talk. I have had quite a few spirited disagreements with chats. Oh, okay. I can mod you then. /mod. Oh, you're already a moderator. Oh, okay. Yeah, I allow disagreement on this channel, but I don't allow disagreement when it comes to genocide apologia. You know, when there's pretty blatantly a project of genocide happening in the Gaza Strip, and you know you are doing genocide apologia for that, I don't have any real reservations about you know, kicking you out of my stream. It's kind of like the paradox of tolerance, right? Nazi shit is not welcome here. Even if you are Israeli and Jewish, you can still be just as much of a Nazi ideologically as the Nazis. Oh, you don't respect my free speech? Not when you're defending genocide. No, I actually don't. You see, if your disagreement had not been one of all of them are Muslim extremists and deserve to die, and Israel's fighting for its survival, then I wouldn't have banned you, or then I wouldn't ban somebody for saying that. I'm not a racist, but can still chat because I don't talk bullshit. Yeah, and see, look, we've had disagreements, and in fact, we've had quite vehement disagreements. The issue, like, the issue here, and the reason that I don't ban other chatters, but I did ban them, is because most of the chatter, you guys, both of you who are in chat right now, have not come at me with some fucking insane genocide is fine actually ass sounding take, or like fucking genuine eliminationist racist rhetoric, right? Like it's always like a disagreement over issues where we both agree like, yeah, good things are good and bad things are bad, and we're like mostly disagreeing on the particulars. That's why I said that like they are actually an evil person, that they're just a bad person. I don't think they actually particularly care about the value of human life. We end up arguing about some war BS every stream. Yeah, and like what we're mostly arguing about is descriptive stuff. I think both of us would agree, if Russia invades, that's bad and not morally justified, and a lot of people would die. And the disagreement we have is whether or not that would happen, and like, why it would happen or not. And then, like, obviously we would agree on, like, whether it's good to be prepared and shit like that. Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to get hung up on that any more than I have. Don't do fucking genocide apologia and like emotional manipulation shit. I've honestly, I was already very skeptical of that chatter because they are very they chat in ways that are very emotionally manipulative. I remember that much. They've hijacked my stream before in the sense that they've like ran me off topic and stuff, and yeah. You know how it is. You see the shocking news of Putin winning the election? I know, surprising. Nobody could have predicted this. Sad she's in such a delusional world. Sure, terrorists aren't your typical angel, but you don't gotta ruin the lives of Palestine. Yeah, I didn't even really get to talk about, like, the dynamic of, like, Hamas in Palestine, in Gaza and whatever. Part of the reason that I said that, like, Hamas has been God's gift to Netanyahu is because it's given him the leeway in the international community to just murk Palestinian women and children, and stuff like that. And yeah, like, obviously Hamas is a terrorist organization, but it's like a force of fucking nature, right? It's an inevitable consequence of what Israel has been doing to Palestine for over 70 years. I can smell the getting off over people getting mad from a while ago. Yeah, don't worry about it. She is 100% trolling. She's not trolling, I can tell you that much. I've had interactions with her before. She's not trolling. Freud would have a field day with her. That's all I'm gonna say. Some shit about, like, I don't know. Only 88% majority. I expected at least 120%. Yeah, he's ever the humble man. It's like, here we go. It's like Israel set the Gaza Strip on fire, and that fire is Hamas, and now they're blaming the fire for burning down the Gaza Strip, even though they like went in and banned all of the other political parties that could have put out the fire. Hitler handing him out the L. Yeah. God, people like that are so ghoulish. Alright, anyways. Don't do genocide apologia, kids. Whenever the rhetoric ever dips into, like, an entire religion or ethnicity being demon devils and all being extremists and like shit that would justify their elimination, you should be incredibly skeptical. If you ever see shit like that in the future, you gotta, you know, that Metal Gear exclamation point gotta be appearing above your head real quick. Oop. I didn't mean for that to go for Raptor, but whatever. I really like this track. Trump loses the coup, will 100% run away to Russia? Maybe. It is possible. Trump in Russia. I mean, he's been there before, I'm pretty sure. Like, for business stuff, mostly. I mean, obviously, like, as the president, he's been there. But, like, I mean, for an extended period. I think he's also been there before, also. The Ukrainians, they didn't help us on D-Day. Actually, they did. They were on the other front of the war. God, that's actually... The way that Trump says incorrect things is very funny. Trump says he sees Putin as an enemy who he respects as a leader, I've learned. Yeah, Trump has a lot of respect for authoritarian strongmen. Putin, Orban, fucking, Kim Jong-un even is another one. Very goofy set of, political bedfellows. I don't know what place I got. Second, seems like. I think I did the end part really well. Moldova's joining the EU? You'll love to see it. Turkey's seething right now. That's true. Yeah, look, a rare point of agreement that I have with liberals who I fucking hate. Like, it's not uncommon that I'll have agreement with liberals, but it is uncommon that I agree with liberals that I fucking hate because they make their entire identity about being insufferable and hateable. Is that it's good when the EU grows larger, right? Or when there are more countries in the EU, generally speaking. Is it flawed and exploitative in some ways? Yes, absolutely. But it is preferable to not having that membership in the first place, because there are certain perks in the EU that you don't get if you're not a member state. And if you weren't a member state, you would just be subject to boilerplate economic exploitation a la neocolonialism, which is honestly a lot worse in many cases. Or guys, hope you also. Yeah, I didn't want to comment on it too much, but welcome to the stream, all the folks watching. Hope you're enjoying. So I think, you know, it's good that like the economic bloc of the EU is expanding, kind of. I don't know. It's kind of like it's like a mildly good thing, right? I don't know if it necessarily leads anywhere especially great, considering the amount of EU countries that are struggling with problems with the far right in their own countries and stuff. But, you know. Usually, things don't turn out badly when countries enter the EU. That's what I've generally sort of learned, picked up on. I wonder how the issue of Transnistria will be solved if they join the EU. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. You know, it's possible that it goes away quite quietly. You know, Russia wanted Transnistria, or wants to have the Transnistria for like geopolitical reasons and stuff like that. You know, fairly self-evident because it's just strategically placed and all that. But like with EU membership, it's going to be a lot harder for Putin to sort of muscle his angle through on that one, if that makes sense. I hit a tree because I wasn't looking at the screen. No! Hit a banana! I'm driving pretty bad right now. That was a very complicated dance I had to do to avoid that guy. They had voting for Russian president in Transnistria? That's funny. Being pretty transparent with intentions and also with, like, yeah, Transnistria is just part of Russia. Honestly, it's not out of the question that Moldova might actually just say, like, yeah, we don't really want the Transnistria if we're joining the EU. Because I think one of the... Actually, no, it might not be a requirement of the EU. It's only a requirement to join NATO that you don't have any, like, ongoing border disputes or border conflicts or shit like that. I don't know. We'll see. Ah, the bullet takes a shortcut. Very cool. 6th place. Okay. Okay. Is America joining the EU someday? Hopefully, God willing. I don't know. I don't think it will. America's like, I mean, like obviously America isn't in Europe, so that wouldn't really make sense. But then also like America is such a strong economic unit on its own that it wouldn't make all that much strategic sense for America to join the EU. I think. When they annex the UK, yeah, God willing, America will annex the UK by the end of the 2030s. Following, of course, the Irish unification. UK will be the 51st state. Or something like that. Or the 52nd state if we make Puerto Rico a state. God, there's that ironic detachment again. That was a big thing in like the in the Map Hat video about like don't trust your heroes and whatever. Like male socialization from a young age, teaching kids to be really weird emotionally. I kind of remember thinking like, man, I sometimes I feel like I don't sometimes I feel like I'm not me when I'm streaming. Like and I guess some of it might have to do with the performative I don't know, performative might be overselling it, but definitely the like detached kind of ironic humor and stuff, which I do find funny, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to engage in it any more than I'm comfortable with. I don't know. I've recently come to realize, like, you know, sometimes I just want to be genuine. Sometimes I just want to be sincere. You know, and you know, a lot of times that only happens when I'm frustrated. I only really get to be sincere when I'm frustrated, and I don't like that. I want to be sincere more. That would be that'd be really nice. I think. Michigan. You know how to pronounce forecastle? Is this some fucking ligma? Like, yeah, fork my asshole or something? Because if so, I'm down, honestly. I love ligma jokes. My favorite genre of joke. Folksel. Oh yeah, it's like one of those dumbass English town pronunciations. Like, yeah. It's like Worcestershire is pronounced Worcestershire, but is spelled Worcestershire. Forecastle? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's how it's spelled. You would, like, sound it out phonetically, you would get that. What? Dio stole my box even though he was in a how the fuck did he even do that? That's wild, honestly. I've been driving great this round, but I don't care that much. It's all good. We're having a great time, I think, and that's what's important. What if the real Mario Kart Wii Worldwide was the friends we made along the way? God damn it. Oh well. Navigating between the bananas, and that actually got me all the way up to 5th place. That's kind of insane. No, don't hit me. Don't hit me. Okay. Okay. Whew. Next race. Wednesday? What? All day, every day, people always ask me why I'm single. It's because you're the rarest type of male, Ligma male. They just can't get on your level. Always have confidence in yourself. Or is this a setup to a joke? If this is a setup to a joke, I'm sorry if I've ruined it. You should deliver the punchline. Oh, I was actually just reminded of something I wanted to do with chat. With the chat, like how it appears on screen. You know how there's the chat box, right? There's the box on screen where you can see chat, and then as things scroll up, they disappear. I noticed a little while ago that like sometimes you see the weird clipping at the top. And I wanted to do a thing where there's like a gradient. I didn't cook. I'll take my hat off and defenestrate myself. No, don't do that. Learning to cook isn't that hard. You just start with really simple stuff. Finally a great moment to use that word? Yeah, that's true. I remember when I learned that word, it was like my new favorite word. Because it sounded funny, and it meant something that's really funny, too. Oh, Dio knows the route, and I kind of don't. No. Well, it was a sneaky surprise for whoever decides to take the top route. Biffler is still my king? Really? That's a word? I did not know this. You see what happened to Candace? Candace dick fit in your mouth? Is that what the angle is on this? I know that one. And I like that one. Good Ligma joke. Your neck looks longer than usual today? Fuck, you said that and now I noticed it and I can't unsee it. You're right. I don't know what that's about. I don't know, like, how that happens. What's up, Kazzy boy? I didn't do that section very well. This box? Yes. No! Yes! I got my star still. Yay. Third? Wow, that's kind of wild. It's so long to unsee. You think it's because of the, like, blank space behind me that's, like, vaguely skin-colored? What if I do this? Oh, yeah, you know what? I bet it's the shirt. I bet it's the t-shirt. I think I figured it out. See, look, like, you kind of still perceive this as potentially part of my neck. So if my shirt collar is down like that, you see this as my neck. When in reality, my neck ends, like, right here. And, like, stuff below that is my collarbone. Half neck gang unite. Yeah, that's true. You know, there are a lot of tropes of appearing relatively masculine that I don't necessarily identify with or like that much. But there was one guy that I always thought just looked so cool, and I wanted to be like that. His name was Greg Knoll. He's a surfer. And one of the defining things about him was just that he was a big dude. He had a like big thick neck, and he would always wear swim trunks that had like jailhouse stripes, like black and white stripes. And I always wanted to have the thick neck, just because I thought it looked so cool. Not like so thick of a neck that my head just starts to look like a thumb. You know? There's a balance to be struck there. But, you know. Definitely didn't want to be a skinny guy all my life. Happy to help you see. Oh, hey! Oh, Gengar829, welcome back to chat. Oh god, I almost didn't notice that you were here because your name was same color. I sometimes I'd have a hard time looking at text in chat, so I just kind of look at colors. One thing I learned about bullet bills: just go wide. Oh my god, I might have fucked that guy up so bad. Okay, no, I think he landed on the boost panel. Okay. Alright, I'm in 4th. Not bad, honestly. Bro, we're all like, we're all big chilling up in the front. Let's fucking go. Whoa! I'm getting so much air. That's actually not good for me. Yeah, I lost a little bit of time. Filipino viewers told me some strange things about Filipinos and their junk. Do I want to know? Fuck it. What do they say? Poor bastard, poor Dio. Fucking gets the ground mushroom and then immediately hits a banana. Here, I will slow down. Just pass, just pass. Okay. For starters, if you carry a condom in your wallet, you're getting laid. Oh, shit. It's kind of wild. Also, I'm now in 6th place. No, I got last. Ah. Had the amount of children with, like, Genghis Khan in that case. That's a lot. You know about the Serbia cocksock? What? In some schools, the lads go measure their junk in the bathroom on Tuesdays and compare it. Well, that's just an average school activity, measuring dick sizes. There's literally a colloquial phrase in the U.S. called a dick measuring contest. Like, that's a thing that people do/did. I think that's all I have in me for stream today. Originally, I was planning for this to be a relatively short stream. And then you guys all saw what happened. Americans? Yes, that's true. That, you know what? That's one of the... There are some things that make me like, fuck yeah, I love being American. Well, shit, bye. I'll raid somebody for sure. Come back tomorrow. I think I'll do another short stream tomorrow. But I also didn't want to do like a full-length stream today either. No, is nobody live right now? Nobody I know is live. Oh well, no raid, I guess. Y'all have fun. I'll see you next time. There might be rip the band viewer. Yeah, rip them. They messaged me and said I'm sorry, XOXO or some shit, and I said no, you're not. And then I hope there's a way to like block people on Twitch. Yeah. See you guys next time. I don't want to make that into too big of a thing.